talk about early modern correspondence data in search of a repository. Thomas Wallnig is a private lecturer at the University of Vienna, and his main areas of research are early modern European history and history of science of history, history of science and scholarship, and of course also digital humanities. And I'm very excited about your talk, Thomas. Please, you have the floor.
Many thanks. Good early afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks, Susanne and Raman, for having me. Actually, it's a particular pleasure to talk to you today, given that I not only am based at the University of Vienna, but have the privilege and pleasure to be a visiting professor at Padua in this semester. So this is really a exciting opportunity to learn about truly European academic collaboration. I will share my screen in a minute, and I will also share the slides that you're going to see. I do that because in that way, I hope you can also follow the links that I will point you to. So basically, what I will present is not in the least as mature as the things that we've seen so far. It is an account of a striking of conversation I and my group have had with the PHAIDRA team in Vienna during these past couple of months. Actually, we have had several encounters and collaborations over the past decade, so to say, but this is going to be something where we will collaborate more closely in the near future. And actually, I'm taking up two of these thoughts that Raman mentioned initially. One is, let's see to find something between the range of 1 year and 10 years and to try and structure the things that need to be done. And the other thing is, let's try and get an overview of what is out there in terms of standards, in terms of repositories, in terms of best practices, and see to do the necessary without reinventing the wheel. I see something in the chat. Yeah, I can maximize my screen, but I invite everyone again to take up the slides for yourselves, so you may do that also for yourself. Okay, this is the abstract. Sorry. Okay, right. This is the abstract. Well, I'm just briefly going to talk about my source, the content of my research. As Susanne said, I'm interested in early modern learned correspondence, and I'm particularly eager to try and put Central Europe on the map of early modern intellectual history. I've done that for many years with the learned correspondence of two Benedictine scholars, a project which went a different way, so to say, and is now we were trying to transform into a digital edition along with a print edition. So this is the hybrid branch, if you will, of my activities. And then for some 3 years, I've now embarked with a research team, which also involves colleagues from Padua, Paolo Molino namely, on a project on the correspondence of court librarian Sebastian Tengnagel. Just a few words about him. The Netherlands-born scholar witnessed something very awkward, because coming out of, I'm saying this in very bold terms, of the world of confessionally Irenic late humanist scholarship in the course of 2 decades, he and his generation found themselves in a very harsh radicalization of religion, but also any kind of other intellectual activities going to war in the 30 Years' War. And this is very nicely, so to say, documented in his correspondence. The particular aspect we're working on in this project, and if you follow the link, you'll find more details about the project, the Oriental Outpost of Republic of Letters, including also Chiara Petrolini, Hülya Celik, and Claudia Römer. Sebastian Tengnagel collected Oriental manuscripts. By Oriental, we mean Arabic, Persian, and Ottoman Turkish. And again, very boldly speaking, that turned from late humanist scholarly interest informed by biblical philology and what they did in the Netherlands in the late 16th century to something like studying the neighbor enemy in the Balkans, the Ottoman Empire, and trying to find means to convert the conquered Hungarian subject. So to just give you a picture of why this man also collected these manuscripts. He did that all across his world, from Istanbul through Aleppo to Spain. And this is why our focus is on both the letters, some 700 passive correspondence kept at the Austrian National Library, and some 100 manuscripts which bear traces of his scholarly activity. These can be manuscripts written by him, so where you see him basically acquire the languages and write down his notes, but also copies of manuscripts, and also manuscripts he acquired and then annotated. So there's a broad variety. And we were trying to figure out how to go about this. Word about early modern correspondence, or correspondence at large. It is clear for everyone that this is not uncharted territory. Especially Stanford's Mapping the Republic of Letters project has sparked wide interest, and let's say also the envy of everyone who also wanted to get on the first page of the New York Times. And so amongst many other activities, there was this effort of the Cost Action Resumming the Republic of Letters, which I co-chaired together with Howard Hodson, where we tried to bring together a broader community of scholars working on early modern correspondence and seeing how far we could get in agreeing on standards, and on the other hand, seeing what kind of scholarship that could produce. So if you follow the link, you'll find our 500-page wrap-up of that experience. On the other hand, of course, we know that there are existing quasi-standards and repositories already in place. I just point to the TI element of Corresp description, developed, so to say, and broadly implemented by the Berlin colleagues, especially Stefan Dumont, and in the repository of Corresp Search. By the way, it just occurred to me that today we're all losing an interesting workshop in Leipzig about something about tools for generating machine-readable letter catalogs out of printed letter collections. So there's Thomas Stecker trying to create something like a German infrastructure solution for letters. This is the same way that the DFG did that for manuscripts. My point here is there is a lot out there, and you really have to think carefully not to reinvent the wheel. Just one word about the aspect of manuscripts. Here again, we're trying to talk to the stakeholders and find out how they're encoding Oriental manuscripts, what the standards there are for transliteration, for instance, if there are any gazetteers, taxonomies of authors and works and the like. And That is still, however, so the basis framework that we're targeting is TI-XML, one with particular emphasis on the manuscript description for the manuscripts and the Correspondence desk for the letters. And I'll just briefly show what I mean by the PHAIDRAcon model. This is just a part. I'll show you the entire one. This is something we developed together with the Austrian Center for Digital Humanities at the Academy, and stands at the basis of this digital edition of the PHAIDRAcon correspondence. We'll not go into detail here, but the fundamental point, of course, is that here we have a full text edition with a summary and a commentary, which we will not have in the case of the Tengnager letters. Why? One of the reasons is that everyone who has worked with correspondence knows that this is just a work which does not finish. And we thought that, okay, doing this once in a lifetime with a full text edition might suffice. And therefore, we were looking for alternative solutions. What we want to do is to show for each letter the persons and works mentioned in the letter. And that is relatively, or sounds relatively straightforward, in that it's a model adopted, for instance, also by EMLO, Only Modern Letters Online, which was on one of the previous slides. We are currently trying, however, to take this one step further. And you all know Transkribus. Transkribus works very nicely when you have regularly written material, which is not the case all that much for early modern learned correspondence. So what we started out doing was to just annotate the things that we wanted to index. And what I've given you on the left is one little screenshot. Again, here I have opened the file so you can see that in real time. And the point is that here you can create already the tags for persons, works, and places. Of course, here we have a transcription, but in other files, we just transcribed the words that we wanted to annotate. And our hope, and we're still kind of struggling with that, struggling in the sense that we are not yet decided whether and how to implement it. You can make an export from Transkribus, getting basically the exact reference of the mention. So you can recognize the remus here. This is basically the facsimile and the zone and the line, and you should be able to reference that very piece on the scan through this kind of export. And we would like to, but still, I mean, have not yet done that, but we would like to put that reference into our data. Another particular thing where we have to tweak a little bit the standard model for data for letters is that Tengnager had this very particular way of annotating his responses on the back of the letter. So this example shows you how he basically drafted his response, giving a date for his response and saying, well, I'll ask him to give back those books that I lent him. This is the abbot of the Austrian monastery of Zwettl, and nudge him to send that back to me. Of course, here there's the decision as whether you consider this to be a separate letter, so a separate work, or to be this, if this is to be considered part of the manifestation of the letter on which it is written. we will probably opt for the first option, allowing, however, for a possibility to then display the entire correspondence, also just based on these little notes. The challenge. We actually started out thinking and hoping that we could even go as far as to combine the files of the letters and the files of the manuscripts through taxonomy of scholarly practices. Stefan Dumont has, well, thought about this. I gave you the article there with regard to correspondence. And it's a fascinating thought, and it's also an intriguing thought, because you would be able to say this kind of scholarly operation, correction, emendation, contextualization, is done on a manuscript and is at the same time also being carried out in the letters. So you would ideally be able to have a one glance view at will the Tegnagel correspondence be more likely to do corrections on Arabic materials of a specific period, or do amendments on Persian material. However, it turns out that the material is just not rich enough, I'd say, at this point, because in the letters that we have, they basically talk about manuscript transfer from one place to the other, and not all that much about scholarly practices. So they don't really talk about the content. They say, I have this manuscript, I'll send it to you in this or that way. So probably we'll drop that, although we already created some draft TI models to also encode that. In addition, we'll have to limit ourselves to explicit mentions, of course. I mean, if they just say the Duke of somewhere, will not be able to identify each and every person, or the librarian, or how these letters work. And very often it's just almost impossible to find them, given also that the early 17th century is just not as widely documented in sources as the early 18th century, I may say. And then there's just also the problem of many non-Oriental sources. Greek, we have had a lot of Latin manuscript sources that we will not be able to identify in the course of this project. In addition to that, and I'm telling you all this to say, well, to what kind of repository conclusion can we come? What is going to be the best solution as a bottom line? We're going to do a scholarly volume presenting that material and quite a lot of surrounding material to the scholarly community. So the data itself is going to be something like a index probationum, if you will, document appendix. So not really the core of our research. However, we would like to have it out there and have it be reusable and amendable also by ourselves. So this is also making some, taking into account the fact that you will just need to accept that this is and remains a work in progress to some degree. And of course, we want to store this in PHAIDRA, which is why we've come to strike up conversation with our dear colleagues, Susanne and Rahman, and we are going to take some of these steps someday soon. One of the points is how we can find a lightweight interface, allowing us to make those 700 letter files accessible through a web browser. that means that we know that the data, storing the data will not be all that difficult and not all that challenging. And at the same time, creating graphical user interfaces for interaction is, well, requires time, energy, money, and may become obsolete very soon. So you need to think well before sitting down and creating something like that. And it might be also worthwhile thinking about, well, just going through GitHub and seeing what is already out there and can be used and tweaked. And connected to that, there is the question, how can do we even need that? Would it not be sufficient to have the data in PHAIDRA and have the publication in EMLO and or Correspondence? That's one of the points we'll be discussing. And then, of course, to make a little bit of advertisement for our own little agenda here, the Digital Habsburg platform, we're setting out to create, still very humble beginnings here, but in order to make data interoperable, first of all, you need to have it in one place and then get an overview, and then you can start looking at technical solutions and the implementation of interoperability on that basis is what we're setting out to do. And so you'll increasingly find data relating to early modern Central Europe on this platform. And then, of course, if we really want to embark on this adventure with the annotated transcribus scans, then one of the also legal points becomes what's the license status of a National Library scan, which has been annotated in transcribus and which we would like to publish. Yes, I think that's all from my side. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for your interesting project, sharing with us your project and your research. And for us, it's a big challenge for us to think about the federal connection and your work. Yes, do you have any questions to Thomas? I think everybody is so impressed from your work. From my side, I have a question about transcribus. You're now using transcribus for your work already, and but it's working good for some kind of material, but for some kind it's not so good. Yes, for the older one it's not so good. You said, no?
I realized that transcribus is really excellent when you have the records of the Dutch Estates General, like 100 volumes written in a very regular layout. And that is, I think that's what the Transcribus group is targeting. They set out to make large holdings, archival holdings, but also print, if you will, holdings searchable. By searchable, they mean that through this keyword search, which gives you not only the hit, but the second, third, fourth most probable hits, you're really able to browse huge quantities of handwritten material. It is not an edition platform. It is not a platform for scholarly editions. They made that clear quite early on. And I was having this conversation about the PHAIDRa correspondence, thinking about, okay, should I like map a finished edition back onto Transcribus? And one of the reasons I did not do that is that I would have had to rebuild all of the abbreviations that I had resolved. So all the nice Latin text we had created out of this mess on the original, we would have had to spend time to put this in the exact, I mean, if you sorry, look at this is not even there's a couple of errors here, but so you see, this is really diplomatic transcription. This is not what helps you if you want to do an edition.
Yes.
So that's the one side. And the other side is that for this very, very messy material of early modern correspondence, we have a lot of abbreviations, a lot of writing here and writing there, and material that represents implicit knowledge. It doesn't help you all that much. But again, our annotating of just specific little pieces that we then want to index is our take it saying, well, we can use it because then you can ideally have the transcribus corpus and search for keywords or search for persons and works, and then you get the right spot on the scan. So that would be the goal.
Yeah.
However, for all these other materials, they're really making big progress, and I can only advertise this. They're way beyond, way below the 3% word error rate usually. So they're doing great.
Okay. I think we are also interested in the material that you said that in Leipzig today was an event, or there is an event. So we would be also interested in this outcome.
If you allow me to say just one very brief word about that.
Yes.
Thomas Stecker, who's professor at the Technische Universität Darmstadt, and he used to be vice director of the Herzog August Bibliothek, was one of the major stakeholders in our cost action. As one of the spin-offs of our two now failed attempts at creating a European infrastructure for letters, he said, well, let's do that on a national level, and was embarking on a project which he called Masterplan Brief, and which was presented but not yet approved to the DFG. The idea was to say, well, you, DFG, have these guidelines for manuscript description approvals. So projects for coming to the DFG for the cataloging of manuscripts don't have to state time and again how they're going to work because they're guidelines. And he was hoping to do something similar with letters. And therefore he started making some kind of a calculation of how quickly you could get out digitized, so data indices of printed letter collections. Once they're up and running, I will be on their advisory board and will be trying to coordinate similar processes in Austria. And this workshop is basically one step in that direction.
Okay, thank you.